Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Is it? Is it? Well, it's Monday anyway. Let's see. Let's see how everybody's doing. Glad you made it. Happy Monday. Hope it was a good weekend. I feel like we had a great game night on Friday night. We did our trivia night. And we looked at a bunch of new people, new shops, new rugs. I thought it was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun. Some really high numbers there for a very hard trivia game. And I want to make the correction before I forget right away. One of the people that I spoke about on Friday night, an artist that I had not found before, and I used at least a couple of her really beautiful rugs, sort of landscapes of Maine, where she lives. And kept saying Melinda White, and it's Melina White, no D. Totally my fault. I was wearing my glasses and working off the computer, which I typically don't do. I work off paper, but it's me. So if you were looking for her, you have got to look for her. Her work is so pretty. It's so different, so rugged. And if you remember, she did these really sort of pronounced borders of pebbles and just nautical feel, of course, for Maine. But Melina White. So not Melinda with a D, Melina, no D. Absolutely gorgeous work. You've got to go and check it out. I'm sorry if that was a bit of a red herring for you because I screwed up the name. Anita, good morning. You're getting a free oil change. That sounds good. Good thing you said that. I think I'm really due for an oil change. That's a really good thing you said that. I guess I kind of wait for the universe to tell me when it's time to do grown-up things. Because I remember my last oil change was based on the fact that someone else mentioned they were getting an oil change. I know I have the sticker on the dash, but rarely do I look at the sticker on the dash. Thank you, Anita. Carol, good morning. Sounds like a great way to pass the time. Yeah, definitely. Heather, good morning. I hope I can see you tomorrow. I've been missing that little face and also the little face of Patterson. Catherine, great to see you in Idaho. Catherine has gone back to Idaho, so you are on the move, and I hope you're getting ensconced and settled now. Good to see you. And Sheila in Benton City, Washington. Great to see you, Sheila. Happy Monday. Martha, happy Monday. Great to see you in Ontario. It is coffee time. I've been thinking about you, Martha. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Penny, good morning in Southern North Carolina. You were AWOL. Hey, life is busy. You can be AWOL. You know you can come back to us. It doesn't make any difference. We love you and we'll take you now, soon, later, before, yesterday, tomorrow, next week. It doesn't matter. I'm glad you're back and I hope everything's all right. Work is a bummer. Julie, howdy. Good to see you, Julie. Great to see you. I saw you making such nice comments on the Facebook page. I'm so happy to see the page going as well as it is. The Facebook page, if you're on Facebook, is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. And everybody is just so nice and positive on it. I always love to see the posts coming and going and people posting things, particularly beginners, and getting such good feedback and such good help in such a nice sort of encouraging tone. So I love to check the page, and I don't do it as much as I would like to. Tad, great to see you, man. I'm overdue for checking in with you in Saugerties, New York. The snow is indeed receding, isn't it? I was thinking, it was only a week ago, I was thinking, this is just never going to end. It's like The Shining. You know, we're going to be stuck in this hellish winter for all of time. And now there's hardly any snow on the ground here in Connecticut. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, I really wish I would have taken the kids sledding one more time or doing one more thing in the snow. I really regret it now. Just goes to show, you know, you snooze, you lose thing, right? Kimberly, good morning in sunny Ohio. Ohio, oh man. Chrissy, good to see you. I've got to get that other drawing. I've got your coffee time out, but I've got that other drawing on the way for you too. I have not forgotten. Good to see you, Chrissy. Julie's Minnesota. That's one of my two go-to places. Linda in Mass, how are you this morning? Good to see you. Mama Bear is on in sunny Granby. We are getting some nice sun in Connecticut. I don't know about where you are, but the forecast is to be in the high 60s for the rest of the week. Not today, but for the rest of the week. I think that is extraordinary. That is a gift, and I'm taking that as a great sign from the universe that things are going in the right direction. Wendy, good to see you in Washington. Wendy with the baby U's out in Washington. So nice. Beverly, great to see you too. Beverly picked up the swatch kit. I put the first swatch kit out for the monthly. We're going to start doing a subscription. I just didn't have time this weekend to figure out what program to download to set up a subscription. So we'll see how this one goes. A bunch of the this month's swatches have sold. So that's on my page, Ribbon Candy Hooking, the shop.com. Also in the Facebook group, it's there. I always post in the Facebook group first because I feel like a lot of our base is in the Facebook group, but always also on ribbon candy hooking. So that is there, and it's a really nice set of larger than normal swatches. But it's just good to get some new colors to play with, no matter what you're doing. And if you like the color, you can always order more of the color if it's like the color of your heart for that moment at least. And Donna, great to see you in sunny, warm Alberta. Everybody's getting this nice sort of upswing. Cindy, good to see you too. It's supposed to be in the 60s in northern Illinois. What a world. I love doing this in the morning. It just reminds me we're all in our different places and we're together. And it's just so funny that we come together, once a day typically, check in with each other. It's just nice. That's one of the only things for me about the computer that is nice, is that we can do stuff like this. So Kimberly, Linda, Lori, hey to you too. Welcome back. Good to see you, Lori. And Elaine is in northern Texas, warm and sunny. Oh, I'm glad, Elaine. April, you're there. I owe you a message too. Beautiful day in the North Georgia mountains. Oh, that sounds so good too. That sounds really good. Amber, good morning. Good to see you. And Linda B, thank you. Thumbs up, Linda. Thank you. Good. Please like, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, all of those things that help with videos. I really appreciate all of that. Debbie, greetings in upstate New York. I love upstate New York. Good to see you, Debbie. Welcome. Bye-bye snow, right? I know. One more round of sledding would not have been the worst thing in the world. And incredibly, I did 20 lambs, Wendy, 20. So when we talked the other day on Zoom on Wednesday, there were 4, right? And now we're up to 20. There's been 16 new lambs since Wednesday. That seems impossible, doesn't it? Not for lambs. Oh, I'm so glad. Send us some pictures or post some pictures when you can. It'd be nice to see those little sweethearts. So I don't even know where to begin. I was so busy this weekend. Moth in a sweater closet busy, just crazy. So I was working a little bit on, actually I didn't work on this. We're going to do this tomorrow. We're going to start talking about hooking with t-shirts tomorrow. And I'm going to start going into this colossally great book, the Rug Money book. I think there's a link to it on this video, but I'll start looking at this book tomorrow. T-shirts are going to be our next thing. And some people have been emailing to say, are you going to be putting out t-shirt kits? And I certainly will. I want to be smart about it. I don't want to send you stuff with extra weight and things you can't use. So I want to be smart about it because I do have access to a lot of t-shirts. I am very lucky to live in a town where there is a Goodwill outlet, which goes by the pound. So it's not a Goodwill store, it's an outlet where you can get things very, very low. So then I can sell them a lot lower to you. So that's a possibility. So I'm working on that possibility, and that is coming along. Dave, good morning. In Ontario, coming out of lockdown today. Okay, great. As long as everybody's careful, it's going to be all right. It's just a careful thing, isn't it? I'm very happy. That's good news. Good to see you. So t-shirt thing coming along. I also announced, I put out the swatches this weekend. I put out a bunch of patterns, a few Adopt Me's. I will show them. It takes so long to put everything on the Shopify Ribbon Candy Hooking website that it's a major time pig for me. So I've been trying to do it in other ways. So I posted some of them on the Facebook page last night. I know that doesn't help those of you who are not on Facebook, so I want to give you the chance to see them too. So maybe tomorrow when we start the episode, I'll just show you a bunch of the rugs, and you can just let me know if you're interested before I do other things. I will put some of the larger ones on the Adopt Me page of Shopify, but as I say, it just takes so long that sometimes I just don't have the time to fool with the website, and I just need to keep going with orders and other things. But more to come on that. There's tons and tons and tons. So don't worry, there's tons. If you want a project to work on, I have so many, you will be able to pick your subject, I promise. So I was working on that, and I also put out a beginner class because a lot of people were writing for absolute beginner class. And I used this antique duck pattern from a rug that sold at Sotheby's in the trivia night on Friday. I used this pattern, and I'm putting this out as a pattern, as a kit, and as a class. It's going to be called, it is called Carbuncle Pond, and it's an antique duck pattern. So it looks, I forget what it is, it's like 17 by something, and it's going to end up having a 2-inch border all the way around because doing the border is going to be part of this class. Having the coven is to take a Sharpie and just add the border and add a sort of hit or miss. This is an antique rug, so this class has the sort of thrust of one who is doing an antique design. So the kit is coming with number 8s and number 5s. It's coming in a ton of colors. And while your background shows you all the lines of the original duck in the antique rug, you know you don't have to necessarily hook that way. And part of the class will be talking about your options, particularly in dealing with an antique pattern or primitive pattern, interchangeable, what your options are. So I did a bunch of stuff with that. I put out for that kit this group of yellows. The kit comes with all of the colors I'm showing you. All of these yellows and browns for the sun. I wanted to do something different with this pattern. I wanted to do colors that would not be expected because for Carbuncle Pond, I didn't want to do blue sky, blue water, right? I wanted to do like almost black water, antique black and dark blues, and a really mixed yellow sky that goes yellow, hay color, sort of straw, coral pinks, tans, khakis, something different because the antique rug was really sort of washed out very, very low light pastel type colors, very pale. And I named it Carbuncle Pond because where we go for Cape Cod for our holiday every year, and we have done for 40 something years, there's a series of 3 ponds that are connected. And my dad always told us that the third pond, which unless the water level is quite high, you can't go through with your rowboat. You have to get out, pull it over. You know, there's like turtles scampering and all kinds of bugs and dragonflies and things like that. But if you do get into the third pond, that pond is called Carbuncle Pond because it's super black and murky. That's the one pond of my life and childhood that I have not swam in because it's really small and really black and murky. And that just putting your hand in, the temperatures, there's a lot of stuff alive in there. So we call that Carbuncle Pond, and it also reminds me of the great Arthur Conan Doyle story, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan. The Christmas story, what was it called? The Blue Carbuncle. I won't say the thing I almost said, but another carbuncle tie. And if you know that, you know what I mean. Great, great short story for Christmas. But anyway, Carbuncle Pond, I did those yellows for the sky, a bit unexpected. I did a bunch of blues, and I did, you know, the kind of dyeing that I like to do that's all modeled with a lot of colors within colors. So we're not talking really solid colors, but lots of blues, a bunch of different greens, including really, really, really light sort of Nile type green, and some pinks, of course, pinks and corals, because there's a few little flowers in it that I haven't gotten to yet, and then some antique blacks. And if you're new to hooking, antique black is like an off black. It often includes black, but it often has a lot of other colors in it. Like this, there's some purple showing in this and some navy blues. It's not a solid black. Antique black has a bit more interest and depth. So those are the things that are going with the duck kit. So I'm gonna also set that up as just a pattern or a kit if you don't want the class and you just like the duck. But if you get it as a pattern, it will have a 2-inch border all the way around, which makes it 4 inches larger on every side. I think it's important to have that nice primitive border with the primitive. So that is coming up. And this is what else I did this weekend. Let me see if I can move this camera and show you. Right there. That is the set of wool I'm working with right now. That's the Weekend in Maine set. It's a set of 20. It'll be a sampler, 20 yards of each. So 20 times 20. So what is that? 400. That's 400 yards, right? Ding dong. But yeah, so this is the Weekend in Maine set, and that'll be available later today, either as independent colors or as the set, the sampler, for those of you that like to hook with yarn. Great thing to do also if you're a beginner. I love to see the scampering turtles too. They're like box turtles in that pond, and also the snappers, which are great. And when my dad was alive, he would love to go down there in the super early morning with cubes of cheese and lure the turtles into the boat and then bring them on, row across the 3 ponds and bring them to the beach where me and my sister were playing and show us the turtles. And then we would release them together, and they would it's so magical, isn't it? These moments of nature. You just put them on the sand, and whatever direction they're facing, they turn toward the water, and they just rush to it, and then they're just gone. Just in a second, they're gone. And it's just so neat. It's so neat to see that. Of course, we never hurt them or anything like that. We just looked at them and got a little bit of a turtle education playing with them, but it was super fun, super good memories. So Carbuncle Pond. I think that's all the news for now. Any other news can wait, right? The rest of it can wait. I want to do some of this before we're already halfway through the episode. Yeah, post some of the pictures on Facebook, Wendy. People love to see, we're all fiber people, and we love to see the sheep. And I think more than that, we love to know that spring is coming. And if the weather's not telling it to us and the sun isn't quite there, at least we know with the little animals being born that things are moving forward. Liz, you're on. Oh, thank you. Yeah, carbuncle's a weird spelling. missing our days out, thinking of the winery. I'm also thinking of the winery, and I wrote to Carol last week and said, is it almost time to go to the winery and hang out outside, distanced and outside? I would love to do that. Suze in Kansas, welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. And Martha, I said before, I was thinking of you because Martha has been a house on fire. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, Martha, but we Zoom. Martha always Zooms, and we've chatted quite a bit. And she said, you know, she had done, was it like the 1990s, taken a hooking class, and it was a bit overwhelming. The amount of the volume and the weight of the information and detail was a bit overwhelming, and she took it off for a long time, and now she's just coming back to it now. And Martha has been an absolute house on fire of productivity. Everything. I mean, every time I look, there's a new post, there's a new rug. You're just busy, busy, busy. Super high quality work, just busy. And I keep thinking about you and thinking, number one, I'm so glad that you came back to it. Everything in life is in cycles, as we all know, and sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's not the right time, and it's so nice to return to something that's meant to be, like a hobby that you love. But it's also so funny when I think of you, because you are a biologist, and you have been so brave with your colors and your choices, and the things that you do are very loose and very fast. And they're all coming out beautiful, but it just makes me think of the biologists in my life who I know. Biologists usually have to be, you know, whereas most people, before they approach something or attack something, need to be maybe 90 to 100% sure of what they're doing and what the outcome will be. Biologists seem to need to be like 1,000% sure. And yet you just keep going with your hooking and your color, and you are just like, you're killing it. You're doing such good work. I'm so happy that you returned to hooking. And I hope people who are approaching for the first time and coming back to it after a gap look at it in a different way and think about it in a different way. Try to remove all those layers of rules and all of those weird speed bumps that can stop you from working at the speed and with the amount of pleasure that you'd like to be working at and with. And just do things your way and see if it goes any better. So, sheep photos, yes. So let's come back to, speaking of inspiration, Tamara Pavich. I keep coming to her. I keep running out of time. This book, Designed by You, it's in the description. I just want to talk about a few more of her ideas before we move on to other subjects, because she is just absolutely the best idea person I can think of. We left off on this sort of chapter about stained glass, you know, doing stained glass. Remember this one here? I said it looked like a muka, but it was like a pearl gown. Sorry, I'm reading comments at the same time. And it reminded me of this. I'll just show you this again too. This was in that rug haul I got, but this is the one that I want to finish. Same sort of stained glass effect. Works really, really well. That's where we left off in the last episode before game night. As a possibility, just an idea. Do something with stained glass. Now here's another idea. Again, every page of this book is an idea, so this really is a book that you should think about getting if it's not in your library. If you love ideas and inspiration, whether you are hooking now or not, this is going to be a great book for inspiration. The contrasts of DLBD, that's dark, light, dull, bright. Dark, light, dull, bright. Having that as a combo, this is one of these sort of winning formulas for a great composition, strong color composition. And she uses a quote at the beginning of each page. This one is by Libba Bray, and it says, "You don't notice the light without a bit of shadow." Interesting, and we know that logically, but she's not talking about the crazy mid-century shading where you need 45 shades of pink to make a flower. She's not talking about that. Her style of lights and darks is very different. So the one I'm going to show you first is by Tama Pavich. This is her one called Romp in Peace. And this is about her dog. She had a Borzoi who died in 1999. And this dog used to love to go for midnight romps in the cemetery. So she says, if Pris Butler, as a teacher, had not insisted on her using the color acid green, like a really strong, bright, distinct green, to this rug, it would have been light, dark, and very dull indeed. So in other words, Tamara was super grateful for the advice of Pris Butler, master and icon. It's hard to see here, but there's a lot of this acid green in the tombstones. Now this is a great primitive design. This has a lot going on. The acid green is really, it's a little bit hard to see. The picture is not super, super bright. The outlining of the dog, I think, is brilliant. And we're not talking about that intense shading. We're talking about something much more graphic, but still using some shading and using unexpected color like acid green in the tombstones. It really pops it. And then you're able to use this dark medium, no light, in the key border, right? That's kind of medium dark and dark dark. The composition is very limited on color, but she's saying that that shade of green is the thing that popped it, that pushed it through the glass ceiling and made it truly, truly great. This is another example of using color in an unexpected way. We're not talking, again, about heavy shading. We're talking about very graphic choices. More of an impressionist or an expressionist approach, more of a painterly approach to hooking. Now that piece is by uh, um, Odilon Redon. Um, oh, I'm sorry, that's the name of it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Designed by Lou Ann Ayers in Papillon, Nebraska, 2014. So another great idea, another beautiful composition. If you can introduce a color that is unexpected, particularly just a little bit of it, it can really pop the rest of the composition. It's just something to think about when you go into your zone and you get too matchy match and you're putting out colors that match together. Just try throwing in one that really is wild, like a wild card. And see what it does to the other colors. See if it makes it, sometimes that one color you need, for example, while I was working on this color thing here, this happened to me this weekend in Maine thing. And I'm going to go like this because that's how I had the colors there. And I had a color that was more toward the red orange called Early Bird Lobster. And when I started dyeing it, I said, I don't like it because it's too bright. And that's Early Bird Lobster. And now I really do like it. It's much more of an orange. It's really the color of a boiled lobster. But now that I see them together, right there, it's a bit, it's too dark light. A lot of mediums, a lot of traditionals. But I think with that Early Bird Lobster, it really added that one bright color that I needed to make the other reds sing and to make the blues at the opposite end also sing. So sometimes you just need that one color. Great ideas right through this whole book. This chapter is called Start with Art. And Coco Chanel said, only those with no memory insist on their originality. In other words, what did we say before? Biblical quote, there is nothing new under the sun. But you have to find a way to make your thing new and your thing special. So she says, I'm reading straight from the book here. She says, there are countless ways to give yourself a steady diet of art and inspiration in terms of looking for inspiration. Now, some of these are hard right now, things being what they are in 2020 and 2021. Was a great French post-impressionist. Thank you, Tad. Leave it to you, the fine artist among us, to know that. Very cool. I'm gonna have to look up because that could be exciting. Post-impressionist, huh? He did flowers like that. Interesting. Great. That's super good info. It's a beautiful composition. It definitely has that impressionist flavor to it. I'm gonna have to look that name up. And now that Tad's written it down, you can write it down too and check that out. Remember, artists who've been dead 100 years are copyright free. Probably not in this case, but you never know. That sounds so predatory, doesn't it? Like buzzard on a you know what truck. But anyway, she's talking about the different ways that you can get inspiration, studying, looking at art. Every rug hooker should be aware of the museums and galleries in your own town or your state, you know, your regular rounds. Sometimes these little museums, even little historical museums, have great examples of art. Much of it is copyright free, things that you can, adapt or just downright, I don't want to say copy, but do your own interpretation of really directly. So quilt shows, local shows, folk art displays, of course the antique stores, retro art posters, bookstores, and she talks about the kinds of books that are good to use if you're designing, like the Dover, the publisher Dover, a lot of their copyright-free stuff is out there. Also children's books. You have to be a little bit careful with the year again, thinking about that copyright sort of frame. But Magby, Vici, good morning. Oh, good morning to you too in Lancaster, enjoying your cup of coffee, and it is sunny outside. Taking it, right? Taking it where we can get it. So she's just talking about the whole chapter on things that maybe you haven't thought about, places that you can reach out and look for inspiration. For example, cave paintings. These are definitely copyright free. These are definitely, but isn't that a gorgeous cave painted painting limited color, but that real strong rust. We talked about this too, I think, on Trivia Night, some of the oldest pigments. This one is called Lascaux Cave Horse, and it is designed and hooked by Janet Connor. She's one of my favorites, in Hiram, Maine, 2014. And then look at this one, Home Sweet Home, on Scottish burlap. This is a 1930s advertising booklet. This can be a tricky gray area with copyright stuff. You know, advertising in the earlier 20th century, it could very well be, particularly for advertising, that it isn't going to fall into the sort of envelope where you need permission, because often with advertising, the person was paid not as an artist, but he was paid for his work, done and dusted, belonged to the company defunct, and then you are hitting a kind of black hole cul-de-sac of copyright issues. But the worst thing that can happen if you do an image like this is someone will send you a cease and desist letter if you're selling it. If you're hanging it in your living room, it's not even a thought. You can pull from a beautiful 1930s advertisement or poster like this. And you can tell it's 1930s. It has that great deco feel, a really sharp contrast, really exaggerated color, almost technicolor, but a limited palette. So all of these things we associate with this particular period, and thus the graphics during the Art Deco period are perfect for rug hookers to sort of dig into. Let's look at a couple more. This is the one I put up for our thumbnail. It's an adaptation of a P. Buckley moss. And I was really drawn to it before I even saw that, because that Amish thing that I put out earlier this year was my interpretation of a P. Buckley moss. And it was nice to see someone else going for the very distinctive black tree silhouettes on a real watercolored background. So P. Buckley moss, that's another one to look for inspiration. This particular rug is called Blessed Peace, and it was designed and hooked by Denise Hoffman in Bellevue, Nebraska, also 2014. And she's talking about other places where she gets inspiration for design or even for color within a commercial design, right? Quilts and coverlets, textile art, stencils and wall murals. These are all things you can look up online too. Weather vanes and metalwork, obviously paintings, carvings, sculptures, dolls, toys, pottery, kitchenware, pantry boxes, wooden bowls, toll painted stuff, painted furniture, and basically anything. And she showed this nice one of shorebirds. This is also Janet Connor, Hiram, Maine. These looks like these, these carved folk birds that you see often in the primitive type stores and country stores. Looks like a nice still life of those. I mean, why not? It doesn't look like actual birds because they don't have two legs. It looks like the folk art version, which is a great example of something you can pull from. She talks about hooking to abstraction, meaning abstract hooking, things like this. Let me just show you an example. Absolutely beautiful. This is called Joy by Rosalind Logsdon of Laurel, Maryland, 1975. Beautiful, very monochromatic composition. A few reds, a few peaches, a little bit of salmon, a lot of sort of rust and cherry red. And it is a super successful composition. It almost reminds me of a Georgia O'Keeffe. But doing something abstracted in this way, sometimes like Georgia O'Keeffe, the first thing you need to do is blow it up until it becomes a curiosity, until you're looking at something that is just shapes and lines, and you have to pause to think about what it might be. Then you know you're starting in a good place if you're working toward abstraction. But that whole chapter on abstracts is really, really solid. And then she goes into other things like, we've been talking a lot about tearing. I've been doing a lot of cutting and tearing rather than using my cutters just because I'm lazy and I like to work from the couch. She has a whole chapter on tearing. And when you tear, come up here, you get this kind of a look. Very, very primitive, try to get you in here better. There we go. Very primitive, very big, rough, sort of ragged, jagged pieces, right? Beautiful for primitive composition. Absolutely beautiful. That what I was just showing you is called Old, like with an E, Maine Floral, designed and hooked by Kathy Steffen, Athens, Wisconsin, 2015. So needless to say, there's a lot more to say, but I'm running out of time. This book is filled, we'll return to Tama Pavich probably next week. This book is filled with ideas. And, if you're at a point in your hooking or in your work or just in the evenings with enjoying thinking about ideas, like we were just saying, everything happens in cycles. Sometimes you feel like doing, sometimes you feel like hoarding supplies, sometimes you feel like planning, sometimes you feel like sketching. You feel like different things at different times. And I think we are the most successful creatively in terms of output when you do the thing you feel like doing at that moment. When you force yourself to do the thing that you don't feel like doing, like the hooking part or the designing part, when you force yourself to do it, it typically doesn't come out that well because your heart's not in it. And that just, it reads, it translates. So sometimes it's good to do something else. And if you are in a place where right now thinking about ideas and planning is more your thing, then this book is really what you need to have on your lap. Elaine says, oh, hey, Carol. Elaine says, did a hand-torn rug. It's hard on the hand pulling it through the backing. Yeah, you definitely want to think about that. I mean, it's going to be hard, right? Because it's going to be thick. I would not do it on anything but really sort of loose linen or Scottish burlap, something like that. I would never recommend doing it on, and I'm sure that you didn't, Elaine, because you're so good. But if you're a beginner and you're doing hand torn, don't do it on something tight like monk's cloth. Or rug warp, because you will have a sore wrist, and then it'll put you right off this fantastic hobby, because technically there's something so wrong that you can't ignore it or overlook it. So you don't want to do that. You want to be thoughtful about having your supplies match. And this is why it's so good to ask questions online and to ask questions in threads. Whoever you're talking to or watching, ask these questions, because it's never going to be a stupid question, is it? It's always going to be helpful to other people as a reminder too. Oh, I think I will do a rug using ripped up strips. So I do not want to do that on rug warp, or I'm going to have a real problem. So that's a really good point. This is the last thing I want to show you. Where do we come from? She shows a few rugs that, in the quote for this one is, home is a place you grow up wanting to leave and grow old wanting to get back to. Oh, that is so true. That is the story of my life, living in Europe for years and years and years. And the one thing I would love to do more than anything is move back to the house that I grew up in Barrington. But I'm sure it costs $1 million now. But if I could have one thing that didn't have to do with family, safety, longevity, that kind of thing, it would be getting back inside that house. It's so true. So she's showing you examples of things that are taken from the past. This is an old family postcard, and she's hooked it just that way, even with the mark, the postal mark, the stamp on it, and the message on the front. In the olden days, people put messages on the front because if you wrote a message on the back of the card where it belonged, you would get charged more. Whereas if you just wrote a message over the text, it cost less because it was basically a card without a message. It was just a postcard. So you could add to the picture with your own text, right over the picture, and send it very cheaply, or you could write on the back and send it much more expensively. So that's why you see so many of these postcards with the text written on the front, but it makes a great composition. The story is right there. The house, the people, the vehicle, and the little message from Sarah right on the front. That was done by John Florney. Let me make sure I have it. Yep, John Florney, 2008 in Lewes, Delaware. And this other one's is called Grandmother's House, designed and hooked by Holly McMinnon in Roca, Nebraska, 2015. This is another beautiful one. I'll show it to you in a second. She says, my teacher was known for house rugs, and my favorite house in my memory was Grandma Glidden's. It was a Victorian-style house with several small porches, heaven, and pretty trim. I made the house a quiet, soft spot for the eye to settle in. She's talking about the composition. We spent many summers out in that yard. Grandma was so proud of her flowers. She liked a lot of traditional old-fashioned flowers, as we call them now. Even the alley was planted with flowers. So she's talking about Grandma Glidden's house and the mulberry tree in the corner. And, oh, it's just, she writes a lot, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So this is the rug that she did about Grandma Glidden's house. I guess that might be the tree or the mulberry tree, and then some of the flowers that she loved, and the two little porches. But pulling things directly from your memory museum, from your personal history, things that are special, thinking about those things too. Why not dig out some old postcards if you're lucky enough to have them in your family, or some old photographs if you're lucky enough to have that stuff, some scrapbooks. You can pull directly from those. Just blow them up at Staples, trace them onto tracing paper, put the fiber tape on them, or order one of those to transfer, or order one of those sulky, S-U-L-K-Y, transfer pens. Get it onto your backing and just get going. Maybe that's the next thing that you need to do if that's what you're feeling. Of you aging, always wanted to go. Yeah, I know. This is a Carol. This is something that chokes me up hugely. The idea, I always used to say how much I wanted to get back when I was living abroad. And my aunt, who's passed away since, used to always counter me with that sort of immovable phrase, you can never go back home. And it's true and it's cliche. And in so many ways it's true because things change so much. But at the end of the day, I think you can. Maybe that's a bit optimistic, but I feel like you can. The things around you change, but as soon as you shut the door to your house and you're in your space, it's what you made it and it's what you remember. And everything else is a detail because it's on the other side of the door. So, yeah, it's nice to think about the old things. Such beautiful quotes. That's another thing this book is great for. So, if you've enjoyed these past episodes talking about Tamara Pavich and in general talking about inspiration and rug hooking, I cannot recommend her books highly enough. We will come back to this in the future, and we'll also look at her other book that's just called, I think, Hooking Stories or Rug Hooking Stories. I've shown it a bunch, not handy. But we'll come back to those two. And again, tomorrow we're going to start looking at Guatemala in this sort of mission, the Rug Money book, about those Guatemalan rugs. And later this week, we will come to this book, which we never actually looked at, the Jean Shepherd, Pradi Hooking, Three-Dimensional Effect. We'll look at this one too. And we will also look at, this is our week in advance, this book by Blondine Delphine, that Rugs and Fantasies, came off Amazon. I haven't even opened it yet. It's obviously written in French, but I think for inspiration purposes, it's going to be worth looking at this. You'll be able to figure out what's going on anyway by looking at it. So we have a bunch of neat books to look at this week. We'll see how many we can slip in. It was great having you this morning. Great to see everybody. Great knowing that you're out there. I am shooting over to Donna's place right now in Manchester. She's got some stuff for me, so that's kind of exciting. But I'm going to get some more orders out, get things going. Let me know if you're interested in the swatch set. It's out there on Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm going to list the main Weekend in Maine set this afternoon. Beginner class ready to go. Let me know if you need anything. Everything's here. I'm just a bit disorganized, and I'll try to post some more of the Adopt Me rugs today. In the meantime, have Rug Hooking Journey. Thank you, Linda. The other Tamara Pavich book is called Rug Hooking Journey. It's also fantastic. We'll come back to her for surezies, without a doubt. So have a great day, everybody. Do whatever feels right. Do whatever feels right. That's how you'll be best, if you just do what feels right now. So I will see you tomorrow for Rug Money in Guatemala. We'll travel together tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great day. I'm going to leave the thread going for just a minute so that I don't get cut off. Have a great day.